Hi, I'm Kristin Tyler, and I'm one of the co-founders at LAWCLERK. Thank you for joining me for today's webinar. Our topic for today is how to hire for success at your law firm in 2023. It's January 2023 right now. A lot of us have exciting goals and plans for our businesses for this year, for our law firms this year. And so this is a perfect time to dig into some of the best tactics and strategies to hire and help you get the help that you need. So, this morning I was driving my kids to school, and my son, who's always very curious about what I'm doing at LAWCLERK, said, what are you doing today, Mom? I said, I'm going to teach a webinar. He asked what the topic was. So I told him, and he said, well, do lawyers really have to reevaluate their strategy to hire every year? And that got me to thinking, yeah, I really do think that we do need to reevaluate. Just because we've hired a certain way in years past doesn't mean that's going to serve us well now. If you've always hired new law students out of school in the fall after they pass the bar, maybe that's worked for you for a lot of years, but maybe it's no longer working for you very well. And so for that reason, I think it is a smart move to make it a very conscious effort to reevaluate your hiring strategy and needs every year, because your firm changes. You might add new practice areas. You might see different influxes in your practice based on the economy and how the economy is performing. When, maybe it expands or retracts at certain times based on other factors. So definitely, taking a pause to look at all your options on a yearly basis is going to be a smart use of your time, and it doesn't have to take long. Why is hiring such an important issue for any lawyer who is running a law firm? Well, to me, it boils down to one simple fact. You can't do everything yourself, at least not forever, at least not very well. You are certainly probably well aware that when you started your firm, you were doing all the things, and you maybe were answering the phones and doing the marketing and, of course, writing all the pleadings and meeting with clients. But as time goes on and you have more and more clients, that gets really hard to sustain. And so you need to be careful to add to your team, to add the right kind of team members to keep moving the firm forward and not holding yourself back by doing everything yourself. It's also really important because if you want to make more money, there's only so many hours of the day. And newsflash, here's some breaking news for you, but lawyers already work a lot of hours. This is some data from Bloomberg Law, found on average, lawyers worked an average of 53 hours a week. That doesn't mean it was all billable, but those are a lot of hours. And if you're trying to increase your revenue, 25, 50%, are you really able to add 10 or 25 more hours every week on for your own time to work? It's just not realistic. So, we do need to know that we have to hire because we can't clone ourselves. Another factor, here's some data from the most recent Clio Legal Trends report, is that lawyers usually work more days than they like. A lot of lawyers are working weekends and they don't really want to. So if you fall into that category, that's another good indicator that you should be hiring to help properly staff up for your firm. And of course, it comes down to revenue and how many dollars do you want to make and take home this year? For most lawyers, we make a really good living, and that's fantastic. But like the rest of our society, everyone is feeling the push of inflation and looking for ways to cut costs, increase revenue to kind of ease on that burden a little bit. Now, a couple of interesting points on inflation, and you're probably like, I didn't sign up for a webinar on economics, but these are some really interesting data points that the ABA put out last year about lawyers' earnings and inflation, some historical data. So I wanted to go through these really quick. So for the first time in 20 years, the average wage for lawyers dipped in 2021. Okay, so that was 2021. And this is the numbers. It was a slight decrease, but nonetheless a decrease, whereas we've grown every year prior to that. And over this same time period, inflation, 2021, it was 1.4%. Now, obviously, we had much higher inflation in 2022, and we all have felt the crunch of that. But, the punchline is that for the first time in over 20 years, lawyer salary and earnings did not grow faster than inflation. And that was pretty significant. I think it really got a lot of lawyers' attention. And if you weren't aware of that, then, well, now you know. So So yeah, we are all feeling that crunch and we're all looking for ways to grow our business. And for most of you, that probably means that this is the time you need to hire. And if you haven't had that, big aha moment of, oh my gosh, I really need to hire someone else for my firm, here's a few quick, simple signs that might help you do a little quick self-evaluation about if you should be hiring and if the time is right. Maybe you've been wondering if you've never hired another lawyer or any other team member, then you may be wondering if the time is right. So it might be a sign that it's time to hire if you're always running out of time. Okay. If you are always hustling to get to the next meeting, always hustling to meet the next deadline, that's not fun. And it's going to wear you out and it's going to just give you the fast track to burnout. So if you're always running and pushing and hustling to keep up with the demands of your firm, that's a great sign that you need some help and it's time to hire. The second one, you're working more hours than you like. We looked at that chart that said most lawyers are working more hours than they would like, and a lot of them are working more time on the weekend than they would like. So if that's you, again, that's a huge red flag that you really owe it to yourself and your clients to hire and get some more help around the firm. And especially for any of you who have pulled any all-nighters lately. I always love giving this presentation in person with lawyers because I make them raise a hand. So if you want to drop a note in the chat, if you've pulled an all-nighter lately, that is definitely a sign that you need to be hiring or delegating more work to someone else. Number 3, you're losing customers. Are you seeing that your team is stretched too thin? Are you stretched too thin so that some of your customer service aspects that you've been striving to provide for clients, that's helped you get a lot of clients over the years? Are those things suffering? Are you seeing lags? Are you seeing clients leaving? Those are all signs that you need more help to maintain those high standards that you've set for your customer experience. Number 4, are you referring clients out because you're at max capacity? It's hard once you've built up this reputation and this marketing engine to drive new clients in, and you have all these clients coming in, and all of a sudden you realize, like, I am really at my max here. I can't take any more clients because, I've got the most cases I can handle. So if you're starting to refer work out to other colleagues, again, it's a missed opportunity for you to grow your firm, and that's a big sign that you probably should be hiring someone to help you service those clients rather than refer them out. Number 5, your team is stressed out. If everyone in your office is just a little bit on edge and tired and working too much and telling you that they're stressed out, you really should believe them. That's a big sign that it's time to hire some more help. And cultivating a healthy law firm environment is going to help you maintain those rock star, awesome employees that you have. You don't want them to leave you once they're fully onboarded and trained and you're in the flow. You don't want them to leave because they're just incredibly stressed out. Now, okay, of course, we all know the practice of law is very stressful. We have demands from clients, the court, et cetera, et cetera. But if the workload is just too much for the team that you have, you owe it to them to get some more help. And obviously, making that investment in your team and your work environment is also going to help you attract top-level talent to come join you when they see that you aren't working your team to the bone. Okay. And of course, if you have big growth goals for this year, you're never going to do it on your own. You're going to need another attorney to come in and help you bill hours, bring in more dollars. If you're going to, again, if you're already working 60 hours a week and you want to grow your profits by 50% this year, I don't know how you're going to find more hours to bill in the week and the month without really burning yourself out. So definitely, hiring and growth go hand in hand, and this is the greatest time to reevaluate that. All right, so let's talk about hiring. That's why you're here. I think I want to offer some insight into kind of the overall legal hiring market and some strategy tips along the way too. That's why you're here. So first off, really probably the biggest point I want you to take away from today's conversation is that, we at LawClerk, we really encourage you to hire for the team you're going to need, not now, but in 6 months, okay? Hire for the team you're going to need in 6 months. And that might feel really uncomfortable. It might feel like you're taking a leap of faith that you're going to keep getting the clients and the casework. But let me tell you why this is important. It's important because hiring takes a long time. Traditional hiring takes a long time, and traditional hiring can be really expensive. So if you're going to make that investment, you need to get ahead of the curve to get them onboarded. So, for example, let's just say maybe you're a family law attorney and you have a goal to grow the revenue for your firm $250,000 this year, okay? Your goal for that is to hire an associate that you can bill out at $250 an hour. So you need an associate to join the team and bill and collect 1,000 hours this year. Now, of course, some of you may work 2,000 or more hours, so you think that's too light, but these are easy numbers for purposes of an example. So to get that associate up and running, onboarded on the team, trained with your systems, assigned cases, to get the mentorship they need to then work independently, you need to look and find the talent now to give yourself a few months of runway for them to, get up to speed and be able to hit that goal of billing and collecting at least 1,000 hours the rest of the year. So you've got to budget time to get ahead of your hiring needs. And I hit on this once already, but this process can take a long time. If you are going with the traditional hiring approach of many law firms, which is a full-time in-office associate, a lateral hire from another firm can take 3 to 12 months to find the right person, for them to give notice, to give their 2 weeks, or, more often most firms want at least a month before the associate leaves so they can transition cases. It takes a lot of time. If you're hiring new talent out of law school, those windows of opportunity are kind of sparse. There's the big hiring push for May graduates who take the bar exam in the summer and they can start in the fall. You have a few of folks that graduate in December, take the February bar. So, new hiring happens a couple times a year. But all in all of this time that you're spent on interviews, on-campus interviews, lunches, all of these things that you do to try to find that traditional hiring attorney is time that takes you away from billable client work. And so the faster you can hire, the better to get that help and get ahead of your hiring needs. Along this same path, traditional hiring is very expensive. Again, if you are thinking you need to hire a full-time in-office associate, I have talked to far too many attorneys who have put off that move, put off that hire because they're really intimidated by the expense that comes along with them and the risk of what if this attorney doesn't perform and doesn't bill, doesn't collect. Of course, you're looking at the salary, and there's a little bit of data here on salary by year of practice. This comes from the ABA. But in addition to the salary, you also need to factor in that full-time in-office hires, benefits, training, office space, equipment, bar dues, CLE dues, all of those things. A good rule of thumb, if you're not sure how to estimate all of those other things, is to add 30 to 40% of the base salary to the salary to cover all of these items of overhead. So that's a huge number. And that's why I see far too many attorneys continue to burn the midnight oil, pull the all-nighters to do the work themselves rather than hire. And hiring should always be viewed as a way to make you more money. We're going to talk about that later on, but that's another key point for today, is that we need to change the way we think about hiring, especially when we're hiring an attorney, because attorneys should help drive revenue and profit for your firm. They should not be viewed as an expense, even though I know it's scary to make that move and hire someone. Okay, so we've talked about traditional hiring can be slow, traditional hiring is expensive. It's also been a really tough market. Associates are really kind of in the power seat, and they've been driving really high salaries the past few years. Now, of course, the salary wars in big law get a lot of headlines and news. And for those of us who maybe are solo attorneys or smaller firms, there's a little bit of a trickle down effect. But you combine that with inflation, which is in every headline you read in the newspaper, it seems like. These young associates know that they can command a high salary, especially if they've proven themselves to be top performers. So salaries are going up, recruiting costs are going up, and this is really pushing a lot of lawyers to look for other alternative ways to hire the staff and the help that they need. Okay, another really important thing to keep in mind is when it comes to traditional in-office private practice of law jobs, a lot of lawyers were leaving those in the past 12 months. So, the numbers are really high that this traditional model for both associates and for hiring firms is not really a fit. And there was a big exodus, a big move in the last 12 months. And the reason they're leaving, of course, better pay, better work-life balance, overall job dissatisfaction. It's really a tough business model, and a lot of lawyers on both the worker bee side, the associate side, and the hiring side are looking for alternatives. Okay, so this leads me to the point that I really, really think your future law firm is going to be staffed very differently than maybe the law firm you started at right out of school, where it was only full-time associates in office, all in the same building. We are becoming a more distributed remote workforce, and people are finding the benefits of working with attorneys in an outsourced capacity or a contract basis, from different locations than where they are, because they're finding the talent that they need. So the great news amidst all of this is that, yes, there is still that traditional full-time hiring option, but there's also a big move to legal outsourcing, and that's probably why you're here. Outsourcing is definitely on the rise. It's become very mainstream, with a lot of law firms of all sizes saying that they are now working with contract lawyers. Okay, contract lawyer, freelance lawyer, it all means the same thing, but they are turning to these alternative staffing solutions to beat overhead, get ahead of inflation, and get really great talent. And outsourcing makes a ton of sense. I mean, I've probably already hit on a lot of these, but it's a great way to help you flexibly hire help and grow your firm, to reduce your own stress by getting that help you so desperately need. It can and will help you make more money. And it's also a great way for you to connect with seasoned attorneys, experienced attorneys who have great expertise that you can leverage versus maybe a new hire right out of law school who doesn't have so much experience. So these are all great reasons to consider outsourcing as you're looking at your overall hiring needs and strategy for 2023 and beyond. Outsourcing can also help you get help a lot faster. When you're looking for help on a single project, you need someone to write a motion, or you need someone to help organize some discovery or whatever it is, you can get help on a project by project basis within hours. You can get someone up and running. If you're looking for a more ongoing working relationship, either via an hourly associate position or a subscription, you can typically find attorneys who want to work in those ongoing, more consistent roles every week, every month. You can find those people in days rather than months with a traditional law firm approach. So it can be a much faster and flexible help. And the great thing with outsourcing is if you work with someone, you don't like them for whatever reason, you just don't work with them again. You can change and work with someone else. There are literally thousands and thousands of lawyers out there who have embarked on freelance legal careers and that are ready and willing to collaborate with you for your needs and to help your firm. So, okay, when you're looking at your overall hiring strategy for this year, force yourself to get out of the traditional mindset of how law firms have been staffed. You want to consider, do you need someone full-time? Do you need someone part-time? Do you really need someone in office? Maybe you do if you need them to be there in, handle client consultations or make appearances, but maybe you could work with someone in a remote or a hybrid type manner, and that might actually serve you and your clients better than trying to force that traditional in-office full-time associate role that is very expensive and cumbersome to find. There are so many options out there. Of course, you're here because you've somehow heard about this webinar through LAWCLERK, but we're one of just many, many legal outsourcing solutions out there. Whether you're looking for someone to help answer the phone or help with your legal marketing, or you need a paralegal, you need appearance counsel, there are so many solutions out there that you just need to take a little time to evaluate your needs and what's going to possibly fit best. And we're really happy to be one of those solutions. And we'll tell you if we're not the one to, if you call up and you really need a paralegal, we're going to tell you to call Woven Legal because they have outsourced paralegals. We don't. So it's just exciting to me to see all of the different providers and companies that have entered this arena and offer their services as a flexible way for attorneys and law firms to get help. Okay, now I'm going to try to go in the chat. I want to give you a link to download our hiring worksheet. And what this worksheet is, drop the link. Oh gosh, I hope this works. I don't know that it did. If it doesn't work here, I'm going to email it to all of you when you're done. If someone wants to check, I don't think that one is a link. I will get it again at the end and send it to you guys. But this worksheet is a really great, simple exercise to force you to sit down and put a pen to paper and write out your specific scenario, your needs, and what you need to find for your firm this year. So in this worksheet, you're going to go into detail and give careful thought to what role are you hiring? What are the characteristics of that dream hire, that person that you hope you find when you're interviewing? How are you going to get creative to spread the word to try to find that top talent and attract them to your firm? We have some questions to help you prepare for interviews to make sure you don't forget to ask those important questions that you maybe think of when you're driving or out for a jog. And we're also going to encourage you to, before you even hire, come up with an onboarding plan to set this new hire up for success, whether they're a full-time in office or they're a part-time remote outsource solution. You're going to go through all of these in this hiring worksheet, and it's really a great resource. So, okay, next. Let's go on to one of the next biggest points that I really want you to take away from today, and that's the fact that hiring should make you more money. The thought of hiring is very expensive and it's daunting to a lot of people, but at the end of the day, and the end of the year especially, hiring should result in you making more money as the law firm owner. And how does that work? A lot of people say, well, can a lawyer and a law firm, can you make money off of outsourcing to freelance lawyers? And the answer is yes, you can. Okay. The key rules to look at are going to come, they're all going to be based on model rule 1.5, which is the reasonable test. It says that lawyers can charge a reasonable fee to their clients. So it all comes down to what is reasonable. If you're paying a freelance lawyer a certain hourly rate for work, you can bill their time to your client at a reasonable market rate. And of course, that's going to vary drastically depending on your practice area, your geographic location, how many years that attorney has been working. If you have a second-year freelancer, you're going to bill them at a different rate than if you find someone who's been in practice for 14 years. But all of these things are really important. Now, Clio also came out with some great data to help you determine a reasonable hour rate. This is from their most recent Clio Legal Trends report, and they have an appendix for the first time on this report that goes through billable hour rates by practice area, by state, by years of experience, all these things. The overall average lawyer billable rate they found last year was $313 an hour. Okay, that's the average. So if you are struggling to think of, well, what would be a reasonable rate if I hire this freelance lawyer, go check out the Clio Legal Trends report. It's going to give you a great idea of what to look for. Okay, so let's do a couple of examples. We'll run a few numbers here to show you how hiring can make you money. Okay, first off, let's do a project-based example. So let's say you need someone to help draft a motion for you. You find a freelancer on LawClerk, you hire them for a flat fee project of $1,000. The freelancer is still going to keep track of their time and give you a time card through the LawClerk portal at the end of that work. Let's say this particular freelancer bills 8.5 hours to write this motion, and you determine based on all those factors of market and practice area and years of experience that a reasonable market rate for their work is $200 an hour. This would mean you'd bill 8.5 hours times 200 to your client. That's $1,700. Now, factoring in that you paid $1,000 to get that work done, that's a profit of $700 on just one piece of work. And of course, this doesn't factor in the fact that you're also going to be billing your own time to review and edit the motion, your own time to discuss it with the client, et cetera, et cetera. So you're not going to lose out on your own billable time, but you saved yourself at least probably 8.5 hours of work because you didn't have to stay up until 2 a.m. writing the motion. This is going to free up time for you to help go generate more business or handle court appearances or whatever you need to do if you are not constantly the only one doing this really time-consuming written work. Now, this is just one project, okay? One project that generated an additional $700 of profit for this firm. But what if you did this once a week, every week for a year? $700 a week times 52 weeks, that's an additional $36,000 of revenue for your firm over the course of a year. Those are really big numbers. And for a solo attorney, that can be a big game changer. It can help you make a dent in those student loans or upgrade some of your technology or maybe even just take a vacation. These are really big numbers, and these numbers just compound when you look at our subscription program. So with our subscription program, that starts at 30 hours a month where you're matched with one dedicated remote associate that you work with, just like an associate at your office, but it's for a customizable amount of hours. And typically attorneys are telling us they're finding a much higher level of talent and expertise than they could if they were hiring only in their local pool. So let's say you have a remote associate on a subscription for 40 hours a month. You're paying $100 an hour for their work. So you're paying $4,000 a month. You determine that for this particular freelancer, the reasonable market rate that you can bill a client is $275. So if you're billing 40 hours of their time at $275, you're billing out $11,000. So you're increasing your monthly profit by $7,000. Again, that's a huge number. And when you compound that over a year, that's $84,000 with no added overhead. You're not paying salary, benefits, insurance, all those things. So, the numbers just get really impactful when you look at a part-time remote associate, whether that's a quarter time, 40 hours a month, 80 hours a month. The great thing is you can flex up and down. It's a very flexible way for you to adapt and get help, because we know that your caseloads go like this. They aren't just a steady straight line, and hopefully they're going up and up and up. But either way, we're going to be able to work with you to give you the flexible option you need through an outsourced resource. Okay. Huge game changer. That's it. That's it to say for this one. I really think legal outsourcing is a game changer for all law firms when they're looking at their hiring strategy and what the future of their law firm is going to look like to bring them the most success. So here's the recap for today. All right. These are the takeaways I want you to take from this conversation. Okay. Number one, you really need to reassess your hiring approach every year. Your needs are going to change. Your firm is going to change. Don't just do the same thing that you've done in the past. Reassess and come up with a new plan. Challenge yourself to hire for the team that you will need, not now, but in 6 months. You need to get ahead of your hiring needs to find the talent you need, get them onboarded. Otherwise, you're always going to be hustling and running to play catch up. But if you can hire ahead, you're going to see the benefits of that without a doubt. Consider all those hiring options, okay? You need to consider a full-time, part-time, some mix. Do you really need someone in office? Really dig into that and challenge yourself. Or could someone work for you remotely or in a hybrid role? You might open yourself up to finding a higher level of talent if you do consider remote or hybrid options. And last but definitely not least, don't fall into the trap of thinking that hiring is an expense. Hiring should make you money. And that should be a great motivator to really dig into hiring and growing your firm this year. Okay. So, hiring is great, but for a lot of you, outsourcing is going to be a better solution. And if you're struggling to figure out what's the best fit for your firm's needs, our team would love to talk to you. We have a team of dedicated law clerk advisors. Every attorney is matched with one through our platform, and they work with hundreds of attorneys across the country. They see how other attorneys are successfully staffing their firms and using outsourcing as one of those solutions. And they would love to talk with you about your firm and your needs and help you find some solutions to try. And, if the first one doesn't try, then we can shift gears and try something else. But we really are here for you, and we want to help you and your law firm succeed in 2023 and beyond. Okay. So I really want to encourage you to get after those hiring needs. Don't sit on it and wait till you're buried in work. I know you can do this, and we're happy to help. If you've enjoyed this video, I would definitely encourage you to go to our YouTube channel, subscribe so you will find when we have new videos that come out, and of course, connect with us on your favorite social media platform, whether that's Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. We're on all of them, and it's a great way to keep in touch with us. So with that being said, I'm going to go check to see if there's any comments in the chat, but I will be sure to get all of the attendees a link to that hiring worksheet. I want to make sure you have that. And thank you so much for spending some time with me today.